Hey everyone, welcome to the Rochford Files with your host Andrew Rochford, coming to you live from the Mile Highland City. And the show is live from the Garden of Twitter, Twitch, and YouTube. So uh, please give a quick like, share, subscribe. I'm sure my guest is about to uh, bring some of his loyal regulars in, just like a couple weeks ago when the other half of the political matrix, Cy Lawson, was on. But without any further ado, Marcus Cage.
Thank you for having me, Andrew. I'm excited to be on here. I had fun watching you and Chris on the other day, and feel very honored to be on your show. So thank you, sir.
Oh, yes. I'm glad that you're on now after 2 weeks ago when Cy was on.
hmm That's my brother right there. Sorry,
So,
coffee's a little hot.
are you the type of person who needs a pick me up after a long day after work?
Uh, well, today's just been a busy day, so I needed a little bit of a pick me up. Um, feel a little slightly just crazy day. Um, I don't even want to go into it. Nobody wants to hear my boring work drama. But yeah, I mean, got to make sure I get everything firing upstairs correctly. Um, oh, there's my homie. There's Kelly.
Hey,
So glad to
Kelly.
see her. Yeah, Kelly's one of the day one regulars to our show, and oh yeah, I wanted to congratulate you, by the way. I know I noticed you had your 1 year anniversary just recently of the show.
Oh, yes, thank you. Even though there were like it didn't really feel like a full year just because of I had a little 3 month hiatus and a few other weeks after that. But it's the quality that counts, and the quality is improving here with guests
Yes.
like yourself.
Well, I appreciate it if you consider me an upgrade. I mean, I'm just an average Joe guy. Anybody that really knows me knows what you see on camera is pretty much what you get. You could talk to me online, or you could talk to me out in public, and I'm gonna be virtually the same. You know, well, I'll probably be a little bit less edited. We'll say
Yeah,
that much.
and I'd
Uh,
probably be a bit more awkward.
well, I'm glad to have you. Some people think that's a bad thing. You never know. I mean, hey,
Yeah,
stalkers help build your confidence.
and there could be some lonely guys out there who wish they had a stalker as well.
You see, I often say that sometimes. See, that's the other side of it. See, some women don't realize that. You know what? I get it. You might have too many, might be too much going on, but some dudes be like, man, I wish that I would peek out the window and see some chick in her car with binoculars. Oh, Andrew almost saw me. That'd be a little fun sometimes. I normally get like the crazy people who drop in your DMs or send you something, and it's like, oh, you just seem like you were such an amazing guy, and you look so beautiful. I think we can have a wonderful relationship together. And then like a week later, they're like, actually, can you send me this money because I'm stuck in the embassy in the Czech Republic or Jamaica or something crazy, and I'm very wealthy, but my family. I haven't been able to get in touch with them because I lost my passport and phone and all that stuff. And I just need, a couple $100 to kind of help. And then I can pay you back and we can start our wonderful life.
Those feel like spam emails from like 2004 that you're describing.
Yes, exactly. And say, oh, about to call out my age now. I don't mind. I don't mind people knowing that I'm a little bit older than especially as far as the newer content creators, which I mean, what, 3 years in the game, I still consider myself a new content creator. I'm older than most leftist content creators in general. So that's probably why my approach is a little different, and along with my topics.
Yeah, and you'll see that I do something a bit different here since I tend to focus on more stories that intersect with sports and even
Hmm.
a bit more than average on the pop culture as well.
I like that though. You're carving out your own niche in your own lane, and that's what we all have to do. You know.
Yes. And because we aren't, if people don't try to do something different, then it's going to be hard to bring different people in.
Well, yeah, and I also say, my advice for people if you're starting a new channel, for one, especially right now, how YouTube is, it's gotten worse, far worse since when I first started my first channel, and the censorship is getting increasingly worse. Um, but if you decide to go through it anyway, and much kudos to anybody who does this, especially like Andrew and all those other content creators out there. It's not always an easy thing to do, and you need to make sure that you're covering topics that you care about and that you enjoy talking about, or that you feel are vitally important. I mean, I guess you can grift and just go out there and talk about the Jimmy Doors and TYT stuff, and Kyle Kalinske, and just name all the buzzword stuff and follow every hot story that's going on. But your content is not going to be stimulating. It's just kind of like, it's like having a bunch of sugar. We try to give out real meals here. Something you can digest, and they're just giving you sugar highs. But
Yeah, I
it's
noticed
not
that
easy. This isn't easy.
the,
If
the
you're going to do it, do something that you actually care about doing, because when you first start out, there are not going to be many people listening. And if you do a whole live stream and you have 3 views, that sometimes can be a little bit discouraging to some people. So, you know, do
yeah,
stuff that you care about.
yes, I was going to say that the most viewed videos on my channel are ones that can be considered clickbaity, except I don't do it regularly unless there's
Hmm.
an important point to make from it.
Yeah. I mean, sometimes the stories are, it's like some stories you can't afford to not cover, because it's like so much of a big elephant in the room. Like recently I covered a little bit about Jimmy Dore going at Anna Kasparian, and Anna Kasparian, because of her rant was so epic, it kind of dominated a lot of the stories. So you kind of need, at least every content creator needs to weigh in on it at least a little. Even if you only spend a little bit of time on it, you gotta weigh in on stuff like that.
Yeah, I agree. So, actually, got a softer start to the show planned tonight. So, let's do something a bit different. This
Hmm.
is the political left field with your host live in the studio, Andrew Rochford, along with Marcus Cage. Let's go see what's going on around the left tube spaces. Yeah, this is the part where I'm gonna surprise Uncle Warren and say hi to him real quick.
Make sure to tell my brother I said, hey, much love to him.
As you can see, we're about to give you a live look in on Extra Bula.
I like when he does the announcer voice. He's like, hello, here, this is your favorite guy, Uncle Warren, here to make sure to facilitate all your fun festivities for
Some
the evening.
frogs. What the fuck is going on over there at Twitch? What kind of
They're sending emotes. It's the Twitch emotes.
what kind of Lord of the
fun.
you got some Lord of the Flies bullshit going on over there. What the hell? Who's running that? Who's the leader? Who has the torch? Who's no, it's funny. I that
There
tells
we
you
go.
I'm more hip replacement than hip.
We'll listen to Warren's
Because
response.
I see all that stuff. Yeah, there we go. There it is, right? Grim, some fish heads. Is that a frog head or a snake head? What the hell, homie brains?
I don't even know what all of those are because I don't have those emotes.
Is that
I
like
feel
some
so
sort of
bad
like?
for your YouTube audience because they don't even see the emojis. They just see a bunch of words going across the screen.
They do. It says Radica 128 Grimsane Saba Ping OS Frog. That just sounds like some Gen Z code or some shit. Right?
Oh, that's wild.
Hey, Andrew from
I'm
the
looking at the
Rochford Files.
YouTube chat right now. Yeah, it looks bad.
It does, right? That's like it's like some German.
You know, say your name.
I'll be back. Oh, sorry if you guys hear all my background noise.
But now let's get started with our first story of the night. And this will be the... Are you much of a gamer, Marcus?
Occasionally. I haven't gamed in a while. But when I did, I used to have a PlayStation.
Yeah, I'm not really much of a gamer these days, but last one I did, it was Xbox. But this story came out earlier today as Sony PlayStation staff fume over CEO's abortion comments. Some staff at Sony Group Corporation are seething following an email Thursday from the head of PlayStation that urged employees to respect differences of opinion on abortion rights before entering into 5 detailed paragraphs about his 2 cats' first birthday. The email opens addressing current events, including the recent leak of a draft U.S. Supreme Court opinion that signaled an intention to overturn the landmark 1973 Roe v. Wade, which legalized abortion nationwide. Many corporations have felt pressure from employees to comment on the case, but most video game companies have remained silent on the matter. There are a few notable exceptions, such as Bungie Inc., the developer of the Destiny game, which called the decision a direct attack on human rights in a blog last week. Standing up for reproductive choice and liberty is not a difficult decision to make, Bungie said, receiving largely positive reactions from its employees. Sony agreed earlier this year to buy Bungie for $3.6 billion. In the email seen by Bloomberg, PlayStation president Jim Ryan didn't take a stance on abortion rights, instead writing that the company and its community are multifaceted and diverse, holding many different points of view. We owe it to each other and to PlayStation's millions of users to respect differences of opinion among everyone in our internal and external communities. Respect does not equal agreement, but it is fundamental to who we are as a company and as a valued global brand. Ryan went on to write he would like to share something lighthearted to inspire everyone to be mindful of having balance that can ease the stress of uncertain world events, saying it was recently his 2 cats' first birthday and elaborating over the next few paragraphs about his cats' birthday cakes, their noises, and his desire to one day get a dog. I think that's a good point to bring you in, Marcus, for your thoughts on this.
I mean, hearing it, I honestly thought that there was going to be something actually controversial, which he said in there. This just shows me kind of more the kind of, I guess, where we are now in the world. I don't want to say what generation it is or any stuff like that, because I honestly feel that this is a multi-generational thing. It's just a change in the times, because now you get in trouble for saying respect other people's beliefs. And I find that is, and I can guarantee you this is coming from the left. The left has, I remember growing up, it was the right who was so sensitive to everything that they couldn't allow for any difference of opinions. And now it's swung back to the left is the completely inflexible on every single thing. If you're not going to go down the line and agree to everything they say, then they automatically turn you into, well, especially like the LGBTQ community, they just start creating words for what you are. Hey, signs. They literally.
AWCSN?
Oh, was that?
Oh, just saying hey to WCSN.
I like that. I'm gonna have to start using that. WCSN. Chris Wingler. Yes, left is pro-war now too. Yeah, exactly. I grew up being basically a normie Democrat from the Midwest, and you know, we supported all the Democratic candidates. I remember all the way back to like Michael Dukakis and all those guys, and those were like my first like memories. I remember hating Reagan, hating Herbert Walker Bush, but now and a lot of the politics is mostly culture war stuff. Both parties are pro-war now, which if people actually go back to it, back in the day, the Democrats used to be the pro-war party. If you go back further enough, they were always the ones who were pushing most of the wars. Now that's come back around. And I think what we basically have is we have politics, which is being decided by two groups of people, blue MAGA and red MAGA. And that is mostly the privileged suburbs community or the rural community. Actually, no, sometimes it's suburbs also, because like I grew up in Kansas City in Johnson County. That is a red county that they for the most part, but they're not the typical like rural red. They're more like the Chamber of Commerce Republicans, the ones who are about tax cuts, not necessarily all the culture war stuff. But that's what we have going on. It's either the right suburbs and culture war stuff versus the left suburbs and culture war stuff. And I feel most average white people and most melanated people are kind of left mostly out of these discussions now. And that's the reason why I feel like you're seeing this, because this comes across as a very spoiled and privileged mentality to feel like I don't even have to tolerate for somebody to believe their beliefs. Like, for instance, I get pushback. Like, I had somebody who is from the LGBTQ community who was very upset with me because I wasn't speaking more or pushing back against my co-host when he makes certain statements that were pro-heterosexual, if that's a way to phrase it. And I said, the thing is, I'm a religious person. Are you going to start espousing my religious views? No, you're not. And I don't expect you to. We all are different, and we all are going to have our own views. We're going to have things we're in complete agreement with, and we're going to have things we're not going to agree on. And I said that in order for any kind of political movement to get started in America and for us to be able to actually accomplish anything, people need to get back to the political movements which have won and how they won. You go back to civil rights. How did they win on a lot of the issues? Because they went after each issue separately and individually. They said, okay, we want to be able to sit at the lunch counters and we want integration. They fought for integration solely. The LGBTQ community, they decided we want gay marriage. They fought for gay marriage and won. When you start saying, well, you need to be pro this, pro that, pro this, pro this, pro this, and you start making these long lists. Ever since the left has started doing that, they've gotten decimated on getting anything done. And I mean, it doesn't help that everything has gotten more corrupted, but the mentality that these people can't even accept for other people to have a different viewpoint, I mean, it just shows the political climate we're in.
Yeah. Multifaceted and diverse, holding many different points of view. We owe it to each other and Castellanos with the deep drive to right field, and that'll be a 4-0 ball game. Sorry, I had to do that meme.
I mean, I think about like this is where we are. I remember because I've been watching a little bit of interesting interesting commentary lately. It's this one guy. He walks around and he asks women, their views on different things like equality and stuff. And he says, "So do you believe in equality?" And they're like, "Yes, I believe in equality." They're like, "Well, if you go on a date, should the man pay all the time?" And all of them say yes. Well, how is that equal? And he just basically goes down, example after example after example. Whereas we have a lot of people who say they believe things, but they don't really believe all of them. And then, or they say they believe in certain things and they're hypocritical. I mean, I think back to when I was active duty military. You had the Jonesboro Baptist Church that used to show up at veterans' funerals and protest, very horrendously and very disrespectfully. And we had to sit there and just eat it, even though we didn't agree with what the hell they were saying. I mean, I remember when some of these cities which I've been to, they've had literally KKK parades. We didn't agree with that. But I agreed with the fact that they are entitled to their opinion. Now, the moment it gets physical, that's a different story. The moment that they get involved in say, the moment they start using their power in their job or career to start adding those ideas in, that's a different issue. Said, I like to coin the term. Oh, sorry, I'll let you read.
Oh, from WCSN. I like to coin a term right now. It works for both sides, and it's because of Marcus's military experience. Maggots, pronounced maggots, and it's not a stretch. And yes, I have used that in the past.
Mm-hmm. Kelly says, I love to buy my man's meals. Kelly loves to do some other things too.
We hear about that a lot.
Her and talking about purple G-strings and third legs. I always count on that every show.
But back on point to this whole like brand type obsession that you tend to see, like your average liberals and conservatives get obsessed with, because a few years ago, before I seen the light of this, it used to mean more to have a product or a brand make a statement in agreement. But now, once you get to the point of where you are on the left now, and realizing that really the only brand that comes anywhere close to politics of ours somewhat is Ben and Jerry's, then the other thing you were alluding to with how not being willing to work with like socially conservative people to make advancements, I think that perspective changed a lot when you learn from people that have gone down to provide coverage in the global south, like the Convo Couch and Caleb Maupin, for example. They provide that perspective that they're more socialist countries, even though they're more socially conservative in their views.
Oh, most definitely. I mean, especially when you get to South America. And I've been through South America. I lived in Puerto Rico for a while. You start getting to a lot of these areas, especially Latin community as a whole. You're going to start finding far more religious communities, and they would be what would be considered like culturally to the right. But when it comes to economic issues, they would be what's considered a leftist. And, I don't think that that's quite connected here. Like, for instance, I remember one of my favorites I used to listen to, Ed Schultz. Ed Schultz used to talk about how he was economically to the left, but he was pro guns and pro traditional family and pro religion and faith and things like that. And I mean, I think about where I grew up in the Midwest, plenty of Democrats carry guns. But you get out to some of these coastal cities, and now it's a problem that you want to carry a gun. I was one of those so-called leftists, which was pro-gun rights. Now, do I believe that everybody needs to have 30-round clips and bump stocks and all that stuff? No. Do I think everybody should have automatic weapons? No. But sensible gun control with sensible laws as far as background checks and things like that should be okay. But some of these people on the left, they're so zero sum on everything that it's an issue.
And maybe J.K. Rowling is an example of that, as Kelly
Perfect.
alludes to here.
Perfect example. I mean, they call her a turf now. I mean, it's like, who the hell are you guys where you can just keep creating new terms and everybody has to go along with all these different terms that you guys create? I mean, it's ridiculous to me. J.K. Rowling's, if she says one thing the wrong way, now she's considered that she hates. And that's one thing, you know, when you go to the etymology of words, what they actually mean. Phobia means fear. If you don't agree with something, that doesn't mean you automatically fear it. Some people might be like, you know what, I got a problem with gay people because maybe that might turn me gay. Well, that means you might have some homosexual tendencies. You know, that's possible for some people, but that doesn't mean that that's what everybody's issue is. Some people are just like, no, that's not my thing. Maybe this is my religious beliefs. This is maybe just something where, you know, you might be only wired that you find the opposite sex attractive. I remember, this reminds me back to old school singer Genuine. I'm not sure if you're familiar.
Yes, I'm familiar.
You know about Genuine.
Yeah.
Well, he was on one of those reality shows, and a trans woman on there asked if he would date her, and he's like, no, I only like traditional women. And then he started getting attacked for being anti-trans. It's like, because somebody doesn't want to date you, that's like me saying, you know what, I want to date this woman out here, and because she doesn't want to date me back, now she's anti-man. I mean, you can't just, and that's what devalues a lot of these terms and pushbacks. It's kind of like when a woman cries rape and she hasn't actually been raped. Now you make it harder on women who actually are being raped. Now you make it harder on a trans person who might be attacked or bullied for being trans. And a lot of people, like, remember that Ashley, I can't remember her name, Ashley Marie or whatever, that was going after Dave Chappelle? And then you go into her comments, and she's literally like one of the most racist people out there. But yet ignore that because, oh, wait a minute, no, a trans person was attacked. And it's like the hypocrisy of a lot of these people is just mind-numbing to me.
Yeah, I think that perspective that they need to realize is these issues are being used to not make any further progress, even if we try to respect it at an interpersonal level, as I was alluding to in that show with on Tuesday with my guest Sunny K, was the fact that they like to use pronouns as like a distraction to prevent them, to save themselves from making any real progress.
Yeah, and I mean, I'm one of those people, I got thick skin, so I mean, I don't mind people being a little upset with me. I do not put pronouns in my bio at all. And in all honesty, if I see that you probably have pronouns in there, I'm probably not going to follow you back because I'm gonna be like, yeah, this is a person who's full of a lot of trauma. I'm not in, especially if you're just a man. You're not trans or anything, but you feel I need to put in that I'm a he, him when it's clear you obviously look like a man. I don't want to play that game. I don't want to start redefining terms because I was telling somebody, I said, you know what? So what's to say that somebody else can't decide, you know what? I want to identify as a giraffe. So if a cop pulls me over when I'm speeding, it's not my fault because I'm a giraffe. You wouldn't take a giraffe to jail. You would just get the giraffe out of the car, right? So what I mean, it's like I saw one thing. I still don't know if this was a parody or not. But this was a black guy, clearly a black guy, and he's saying, you know what? I actually feel like I'm a Chinese man on the inside. And so I want to be recognized as a Chinese man from now on. I mean, now we're going to look at that person like they're ridiculous, right? Hey, what's up, Cy?
Yeah, Cy Lawson.
We're going to look at that person like they're ridiculous because this black man decides he wants to be Chinese now. And then some people would actually get mad at him because they'd be like, oh, well, now you're just going to use chopsticks all the time? Now you're only going to eat Chinese food? That's cultural appropriation, and be upset with it. And I'm like, you know, what are we doing here now? What are we doing at this point?
Yeah, and I think if you're one of the people who takes a DNA test, then you can start to make those arguments with your 1% because I'm 1% North African.
Everybody is 1% African. Everybody has some percentage of African. There's not a person on this earth that doesn't. I remember watching this one geneticist from China. He was trying to prove how like China was like the first actual people. And he came to find out that most of a lot of Chinese DNA actually originates out of Africa. Started realizing like, I didn't really think about that. But everybody originates from Africa from some point. Well, Africa to what I prefer to call the Levant. Everybody came from the Levant at some point in time. So it's just a difference of we all were just different tribes here and there. And, as there became certain more and more mixing from this tribe to that tribe, phenotypes just start changing up and we just start having all different looks here and there. But we all came from the same place originally. So by that metric, I could just start identifying as whatever I want to, right? I mean, hey, I can be Asian, I can be Pacific Islander now. I mean, whatever I feel like, right?
I mean, Andrew Cuomo and Alyssa Milano have said it before.
I mean, well, and here's something interesting, actually, because both of them are Italian. A lot of people don't realize, well, I'm pretty sure some people know that, but especially if you're Sicilian, Sicily was actually conquered by the Moors for a very, very long time. Actually, all of Europe was for a time period. But Sicily, in recent memory, was conquered, by African tribes, and so there was a whole lot of mixing going on for people in Sicily. That's the reason why if you go to Italy, North Italy, and Sicily, there's a different kind of phenotype and a different look.
So now is a good time to shift into one of the big news stories of yesterday, when the Palestinian journalists got killed yesterday of Abu Akleh.
Mm-hmm.
So let's get into a few of the important paragraphs real quick.
Okay.
The Palestinian Authority has said that it wants to go to the international community to punish Israel for the killing of Shireen Abu Akleh. This demand for an international investigation was part of the reaction that appeared on the street and online within hours of the death of Abu Akleh. It is part of the wider accusation that blames Israel for her death, regardless of the details. Israel is in the same position as other countries. This is due to a variety of reasons. What is important to understand was the killing of the journalist was immediately blamed on Israel. A quote from Ayman Mo Yeldon on MSNBC. I think that's a good paragraph to skip. Both. I think most of that is mainly quoting other sources, but the main theme that we got from this is the fact that the U.S. and Western sources refused to acknowledge that the blame had to be on Israel.
I'm curious, actually. what Haaretz probably said, because Haaretz seems to be sometimes a little bit more fair in their coverage than the Jerusalem Post. Jerusalem Post is so kind of what's a safe word? I forget being safe. They're very, very much behind the Zionist agenda in Israel. And so they're always gonna give cover for the most part. They might put out this person's opinion and that person's opinion, but for me, it's hard for me to believe, and condolences to her family and to all those who are going to miss her and mourn her right now. Um, I, it's hard for me to believe that the IDF, or as a friend of mine said the other day, the IOF, Israeli Offensive Force. It's hard for me to believe that they don't know who this woman is, for one. For two, they remember what happened not too long ago when they killed what was it, over 200 and something Palestinians in the bombings, and they literally bombed an Al Jazeera TV station. Al Jazeera is, they look at them as terrorists also. They don't see them as a news outlet or a news organization that they need to respect. And anybody who is not Israeli, they don't feel that they really need to show them respect. So do I think that, yeah, they figure, we have a crossfire going on right now. Here's a good time to take out a reporter who is a pain in the ass to us. And so, I feel that's what they did. Hey, Ali.
Hey, Ali.
Yeah, you should have her and Sebs on here too sometime.
Oh, yeah, that would be good to have them on as well, as I try to expand the variety of guests on the show.
Mm-hmm. But very, 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 very knowledgeable.
Back to where you left off, Marcus.
Yeah, I mean, I just look at it as this is, I mean, and especially how the Israeli government is if one of theirs gets killed, then they feel obligated to go out and kill easily 5 or 6 more for the one which they lost, if not more than that, if they can get away with it. And so I look at that this. They can say that, oh, this was crossfire, because some of them have actually come out. Some reports have said that they believe that the Palestinians actually shot her. That they said the Palestinians assassinated her. And I'm like, if you would have said it was a crossfire and it was an accident, maybe you can get away with that. Kelly asked, do you know what she was reporting on? She was reporting on the after the attacks that have happened in Israel. The IOF has been going through and they've been doing their raids, and so just going into communities. And if you guys have seen some of these videos, you guys know what they do in some of these raids. Plenty of times where they have a man who's on crutches and they're forcing him, across an area, and pushing them down and abusing people, elderly people. They don't care. They literally treat these people like, I mean, you could see the vitriol and hate in the way which they conduct these raids. I mean, in the military, we didn't do this crap when we're going through areas where these are supposedly enemy or hostile territories. We didn't do that kind of stuff, but they do this kind of stuff. They're how you see in America where you see a cop, he's waiting for you to say something messed up so that he can slam you around harder. That's the kind of shit which they do. It's eerie to me how, for instance, like the George Floyd situation, that knee on the neck tactics. Where do they get that from? They get that from Israel. This level of brutality. The way they come in with these no-knock warrants and they're like, shoot first, ask questions later. This is how Israelis get down always. And so this is what she was covering. And she was trying to expose and shed light onto their behavior. Now, strangely, somehow the Palestinians, who she's basically shedding the light on the persecution that they're going through, they're the ones who shot her. Come on, y'all. Does that make any damn sense?
So once again, the United States shows their hypocrisy on journalism. Since I did go to college for journalism, I didn't quite finish my bachelor's, but from my experience, it just felt like they just tried to prep you to be part of like the big corporate machine, and that if you were freelance, that your ultimate goal was to join one of these corporate conglomerate machines. And once again, you're in seeing the hypocrisy of the way that they cover up for their imperialist right hand man Israel in this case, because they said they covered it up, sugar-coated the language of what really happened. And we see this happen so often. Then the examples were the State Department head ignoring the real cause of the Abu Akleh dying, and we know it's because of the other big settler colonizers in the world, Israel.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of people don't realize that, you know, I guess they do realize as well, the Zionists who run Israel are the same ones who run America. Oh, more or less. I mean, hey, call it how you see it, bro. I mean, it's crazy to me because for those who can't see it, how and even go before that, what was going on? Another one, South Africa. This is the same thing that was going on down there. Same behavior. And what you notice is whenever colonizers go into these different places, they do the same thing. European colonizers went into South Africa, they did that. When the colonizers were down there in Australia and New Zealand, they did the same thing there too. They did the same thing, and it's like, and honestly, if you go back through history, the Romans literally went through, did the same damn thing to people also. Either you completely submit or we destroy you and smash you. Go back before them. The Greeks did the same damn thing. And so it's something about, I don't know what it is, European nations, when they decide that they need to go and I guess they don't feel the need to say, why don't we got a big land here. Why don't we all just live here peacefully? They decide, no, we need to take it all. And that's what's going on, especially right now with the Golan Heights situation in Israel, the Sheikh Jarrah, all of that stuff. This is what this is all about. And even if they get Sheikh Jarrah, you don't, and get all of Golan Heights and get all of these other areas, you don't think that they're coming for Gaza next? They're literally, that's their goal, to either purge everyone out of that area and take over completely. And it's no different than what happened here in America. Once the Americans got every square inch of this land, then they decided, let's be at peace now. Let's be peaceful. And let's just deal with equality, and let's just ignore all the genocide that we did, and the rape and the murder and the plunging and the impoverishment. Let's just ignore it all. None of that. That's, you know, and then I'll hear people say, even if the people who had that done to them, they're like, you know what? I don't want to do that back to them. Even the fact that you would be upset that happened to you is not acceptable to these same colonizers. You can't even be upset You can't be a Native American sitting there in North Dakota looking at the people who raped, robbed, and murdered your land, their faces up on everything, their faces on the money you have, and you're sitting on a little small reservation when you used to own this whole entire country, and they feel like you shouldn't even be mad. At least you have a reservation. Man.
And also brings up a point about how stories like these are part of what the education system is going to continuously leave out. And even though the right complains about this education system is so liberal, but it's still pretty damn conservative outside of them being triggered over a few culture war issues that they feel get forced down their children's throats.
The thing about it is a lot of people, I need to stop saying a lot of people because I don't know who knows what or who. I'll just say for those who don't know this, a lot of textbooks I'm talking about American textbooks, through most of known kind of American history up until recently, especially, had to be checked off and validated by the Daughters of the Confederacy that they didn't have an unfair tilt on the South. Even that, I mean, I look at how many people who just learned what Juneteenth was last year. Reservation Street, Science Park benches, yes. Yep. Plenty of people who just learned what Juneteenth was about. My family grew up celebrating Juneteenth. I mean, I remember going to picnics and parades and all that, which I need to stop using that term also because that even has racial undertones to it, which that's not taught. Because what they would do is when they're having a barbecue or cookout, they would literally pick a nick. I won't finish the rest to be hung. And that would be part of the festive sometimes. So that's where the word picnic comes from. But think about it. So much stuff is not even taught in schools, period. Yeah, you might learn about Rosewood now, but what about the other like 60 to 70 other massacres that went on? What about all the different assassinations which have went on? And then here's another one which always got me. Marcus Garvey was literally like, this ain't working out for us. I just want to get all my people on a boat and we could just like leave. They literally sent the Coast Guard out to get him and said, no, bring your ass back here. Y'all can't leave. You got to stay here. And so it's like, can't get equal treatment and you can't leave. I mean, how messed up is that? And so when people say, well, go back to Africa, I'm like, for one, if that was the thing, go back to Africa, where in Africa to go? Where would we even go? Because most people have no clue even to that, because history books, you wouldn't even allow for us to know what part of Africa most of us even came from, or what we were doing in Africa, or what our names were, or language, or anything. A complete destruction of history. And then, yep, you start off at slavery, and that's all you get to know about. I mean, so yes, what it is, the whole CRT thing, which they're scared of, is they're scared that if melanated people, not just Black people, Native Americans, Latinos, they all start really going into like how horrible some of the treatment from some of these early colonists were, that they're worried that we would take a level of anger and retaliate, because their ancestors, that's what they would have done. That's what some of them might do. And you got to realize you're dealing with people who, like, I've said this with people before, and they're like, really? An apology would be enough? And it's hard for some of those people to understand that. The Republicans running for governor in our state have their platform based on keeping critical race theory out of schools. And what they don't understand, you want to know why Germany got past a lot of their problems as far as the Holocaust? Because they acknowledged it. If you can't acknowledge what's going on, it's like being in a relationship and you're cheating on your spouse, and your spouse catches you, and they still want to stay with your dumbass for some reason. All they want you to do is admit it and apologize. But America has that mentality: we will never admit it, and we don't want to apologize. And let's just get over it. And that's all that does, because they got to remember, are the melanated people not going to have this knowledge of the history? Yeah, we're going to know what happened. We're not going to forget about slavery. We're not going to forget about gator bait. We're not going to forget about where the term, can I curse on here?
Yeah.
Or foul language, because cursing is something different than actual foul language. The term motherfucker, where that comes from. It literally comes from the breeding farms when they literally would take, one of the big bucks from out in the field, put a bag over his head, and make him have sex with his own mother to breed stronger and bigger slaves. I mean, that's what they're scared of. They're scared of awareness and knowledge of what was done in the past, because they're worried that anger will come back upon them, which I'm like, I'm not doing nothing. The father up above, because I'm a man of faith, he deals with that. He dispenses judgments and justice in the end days. So, trying to hide it, it's the same thing as, like I said before, that example. A spouse, you're trying to tell a spouse, your spouse just wants you to fess up to what you did. And they want to stay with you, but you won't do it. And conservatives are just, what that does is that makes the divide continue to go like that. It never makes for any reconciliation to be able to build and get past anything. Sorry to go on such a rant.
Oh, no, you're good. And I think you just summed it up. To sum that up in the best way, it's just pretty much, look, our education system is such a wreck when you really have to go on like social media and independent journalists in order to learn the truth.
Yeah. I mean, that's how bad things are. I mean, and like, I was on with a conservative, and he was telling me about, like, we don't need to learn any of this stuff, and this isn't, that important. And then he literally tells me in the next sentence that he just learned about the Haitian slave revolt. And it's like, you just learned about that like last year, and you're 35. So you don't think there needs to be any revamping to the curriculum if you're just learning about something at 35, which I learned about when I was probably 12, 13. I mean, my grandparents were children during, well, I'm trying to remember, were they actually alive, or were they just children in the aftermath of Greenville, Oklahoma, or Tulsa? Their parents lived through it. And so when they think that they can just kind of erase the history on stuff, I mean, like, and that goes on to with the, be careful how I word this, I don't want to get your show in trouble, but the vax stuff, part of the whole cool conservative movement back to the Peter Thiel and frustrating. I think people are going to open arms. Yep. Exactly.
I thought about throwing the story in, since I had connections to Hulk Hogan with the whole Hulk Hogan and Gawker scandal thing that happened a few years back. Mm-hmm. But then once I looked at the story, it really didn't have that much about Hulk Hogan.
Well, and like one thing that, because see, this is what I see with a lot of Generation X, like Black voters. Many of them already have their house, they have their cars, kids are, doing all right and stuff like that. So their only real issues is, oh, let's see the statues go down, and Trump said some bad words, and he was really offensive. And I tell people, I say, if you really look deeper, what did Trump get accomplished? Nothing. Trump literally got nothing accomplished. All he did, you got to remember, we're dealing with a lazy fucking individual. Yeah, he's going to have his shitty opinions. And you know what? Most 70-something-year-old rich white guys think like that to some degree. They just don't all say it. I mean, Joe Biden literally said that he didn't want his kids going to school with basically blacks and Latinos. He literally, I mean, well, he said, brown-eyed, curly hair Hispanics and Negroes. But I mean, that's what he said. He's one of those people who said, I don't think that we should have to be responsible for what happened 350 years ago, talking about slavery. I mean, with the whole on my show, I call it the serum. Dealing with the serum, you got to remember, some of our family literally were alive during Tuskegee. That wasn't that long ago. And I mean, and another one I like to throw up, in Puerto Rico at the same time, they were sterilizing black women during the same time period, from the 40s up into the 70s. I mean, this history of what this government has done hasn't been that far away, but yet they wanna act like, well, now it's 2022 and everything is different. I mean, I remember I was in Alabama in like, oh, that have been maybe about 2013, maybe 2012, when I was working armored truck. And I was thinking, okay, well, it's Alabama. I'm a little sketched out, knowing some of the stuff I've read about Alabama. And then you see an electronic billboard. And that electronic billboard literally was like, God knows who hung whatever. And I'm like, oh, hell no. They still hanging black people down here? Let me get back in this armored truck and not get snatched up. And that shows me that with this 24-hour news media that we have, and so many gazillions of different distractions, and people can literally choose their entertainment, their news, and tailor make it to what they only want to hear and shut out all the rest. How much stuff are most Americans blind to? I mean, I honestly miss the days when you had top 40 radio. And so everybody listened to a little bit of soul. Everybody listened to a little bit of rock. Everybody listened to a little bit of country, because it was all fed through those lenses. You had to hear all of it. When the radio station starts separating off and you start having only hip hop station, only R&B station, only a rock station, only country station, only talk. I mean, and when you start doing that, you're splitting and you're segmenting the population off and creating more and more divisions. And you're also creating different realities for some people, because they don't have to hear facts, or they can also just hear only lies. So crazy world we're living in, man.
Yeah, I think it's time to shift gears into one of those dramatic blue check celebrities, George Takei.
Oh God, that
I don't know how to say it more clearly, but to young people especially, if you don't vote this November, you might not have a country left in which you can ever be truly free again.
We're free now. I mean, somebody send me the memo. I guess I missed that email or text or fax, or that stork which drops by things. I mean, I missed it. I mean, I watched something. What is it? I guess they've changed their name of their channel now to the Black Congregation, and he just had a video. Now, when NBC does these things, they don't like to show it. They'll put it on their online version. They won't show it on the TV. But reporter went in, and she was asking people in this rural kind of black area, well, what do you think the Democrats can do, to help you as far as voting? And the dude was like, all they do is take the money. They don't do a fucking thing. And then the two other guys who were going to have more of a conversation with her, they said, it really doesn't matter who the president is. We don't feel any difference. And when I stepped back and looked at it, I realized the same thing. George Takei, he's talking for people who are living in a whole different reality. I mean, hey, Variant. I see most people who are my age or younger, and unless they've really taking careful steps to kind of put themselves in good shoes, a lot of them aren't in good shoes to do much of anything. A lot of them, if they try to have kids right now, I'm talking about people a little younger than me, they try to have kids right now, they don't want to have kids because they feel it's too expensive. A lot of them feel like they're never going to own a house. And many, especially out here, a lot of people in California, a lot of people feel like they're never going to be able to move away from their parents. I mean, and so what difference is going to change from Trump to, I mean, what difference has changed from Trump to Biden? What difference has changed, honestly, if I think about it? Under Bill Clinton, you had stop and frisk that was heavy. But here's the thing, even when stop and frisk stopped in New York, they still did a version of it in all these other cities, and it's carried on up until this day. So, I mean, we're going to get 1,500 or 2,000, dollar little checks, which they're going to put that back on you when you file your taxes. I mean, all they did was loan you your income tax check. I mean, for a lot of people, unless you already have kids, which a lot of people out here, if they had kids, they made a killing. But if you don't have kids, if you're not married, a lot of times what are you benefiting? Because the Democrats, most of the stuff did was, what was it, child earn credits. Yeah, but communism's coming. It's coming. The Reds are coming. I mean, and that's what you got to remember. The Reds are already here, right? Because they believe like people like Pelosi is a communist. So I'm like, what difference is going to matter? Really, seriously, all we can do is try to figure out how to carve our own lane in the reality that we're dealing with. And the powers that be are going to do what they're going to do regardless of anything that we do. The problem which most people have a hard time reasoning with, and I see this a lot with leftists, a lot of them, they know the Democratic Party is a failure. They know Republicans are not an option. They also know that this system is completely rigged and corrupted by the corporations, lobbyists, all these different people. But they have convinced themselves that, well, maybe a third party. Did you guys not see what happened with some of these third parties when they try to get on ballots? Remember what happened in New York when they yanked the Green Party off the ballot? They control the exits. They control the entrances. They decide how far that party is going to go. The moment any of these little parties, Green Party, MPP, DSA, whatever one you want to come up with and create, it ain't going nowhere. I mean, the only game in town is the Harlem Globetrotters and the Washington Generals. And we're the Washington Generals. We're going to keep losing. I mean, they have been doing this. Like, for instance, some of these people think that the governments keep changing. Oh, no, we're a republic now, and then we were a democracy. And no, feudalism has still been going on unchecked. The only thing they've done is just masked it differently. We're still living in a form of feudalism. But they give you that illusion of power, that illusion you're controlling something. The only reason why they want you out there to vote, so it can lend legitimacy to their system. So even when you go out there and vote, I'm going to vote for Mickey Mouse to tell you guys, fuck off. It doesn't matter. They don't give two shits. You serve a purpose by just being in the damn line, by them being able to show up, see, they voted. How do you even know for a fact that they're counting your vote? How do you even know for a fact that they're not just saying, you know what, hey, you say you voted for Mickey Mouse. No, you voted for Joe Biden. You don't know any of that because there's no verification to check any of it. But keep thinking you guys can go and flip a corrupted system. I mean, if somebody's a murderer, they're a murderer. You're not going to turn them into a choir boy. But the left, they got it in their head. Third party, man, we're gonna do this and we're gonna take the power to the people. Okay, sure. I'll be over here watching.
Yeah, I think one of the things I appreciate about your perspective is that even with things that we tend to agree with more in concept, you're the one who can offer some skepticism to those ideas, such as like mutual aid, the third parties, uh, protesting and striking.
I
But
mean,
to get in,
they can. The thing about it is, they're already coming to a form of automation right now. So, at the point when everybody should have been striking, you kind of missed that train already. You've missed that boat. The automation that's ramping up, all they're waiting for, honestly, is the signal to increase on all the automation. Once they flip into this new version of 6G, the robots are coming online. It doesn't matter if you work flipping burgers or you work in a law firm. Even if you're a doctor, they don't need most of you. Sorry to interrupt.
oh no, you're good. But back to the focused on the original point here is the fact that there's still this idea that we can still be a democracy, yet the United States is a country that tries to coup actual democracies and call uh, leaders that get democratically elected dictators. And this is supposed to be what living in a democracy is like, or
Yeah.
even a republic.
Yeah. I
Then,
mean, but, sorry.
oh, I lost my thought for a moment.
I was going to
If you want
say,
to say.
here's the perfect example of how weak the whole strike argument is. When they had that May Day strike thing that they set up, do you know what day they had it on?
What day was that?
It was on a Sunday. You know why it was on a Sunday? Because they knew they couldn't put it on a Monday. Because too many of those people need their job and they're not walking off the line. That should show you right there that you got to try to make sure to plan the strike day on a day where you believe most people are not going to be working. If you don't, I mean, like for instance, in France, because they have strong unions, because they have strong safety nets, they're able to be like, yo, we're striking and shut shit down. We can't do that here in America. And it cracks me up every time I hear a lot of these bigger channels like, I don't get why people aren't out in the streets. Okay, get your crazy ass out in the streets and see what's going to happen. You're more than likely going to lose your job. And then where are you going to be? You're going to be hanging out with the nice people down here at Skid Row. That's where you're going. And especially if you got kids and stuff like that, you got to think about them first and foremost. What, are you really going to throw away your livelihood and put your family in harm's way? No. And they've worked out, the cost to wage ratio to keep us just at that point. So we never can have enough money to be like, you know what? I got money, stacked in the bank. I can afford to lose this job. No, you can't. That's why they keep everybody working paycheck to paycheck. If you're paycheck to paycheck, you don't have that flexibility to be able to strike because you don't have any cushion.
Yeah, and I think that you brought up a good thought to mind for me about how even with some of these people on the left who claim to not buy into the political kayfabe, yet they still do in various forms, like the idea of reforming the Democratic Party and even the anti-establishment hero type of ideas like striking and protesting, and the how the idea of trying to get that to work is actually far more complicated than what you would think in your theory that you've read, and how people who are really into theory, I think they have such a static mindset of how they try to apply it to now, not understanding all the different variables that can mess up repeating the same thing over like it was back then.
Well, they don't realize we're not living back then. Back then, when they're reading a lot of this stuff, were there cameras all over the place? Were there high-powered weapons? Were there sonic weapons that they can use? Were there drone technology? Did they have robot dogs with guns on their back? No. And a lot of these people, even if you could try to organize this little militia, whatever, you got to buy your guns online more than likely, right? To be able to set up this whole thing. You don't think that they're going through your communications to know that you're planning to set up this armed revolution? You don't think they're going to be 50 steps ahead of you?
I think this will be a good question for us to answer quick from WCSN. What do you think the current market, not quite crash and recession talk, could affect November?
I think that I really don't think it's actually going to play that much of a part into the election. The reason why is the people who are going to sway the election one way or the other are the people who, now are we talking about, well, let's get a clarification first. Are we talking about the primaries or the general in 2024? Because that makes a difference on.
I'm thinking that WCSN is meaning with the food shortage that's about to come up in the upcoming months from the consequences of the United States actions with the Russia Ukraine.
Oh, the Democrats are going to get destroyed. They're going to get slaughtered. It's going to be ugly. I honestly think that a lot 2022, a lot of people who think that they're safe, we're going to have a whole lot of, oh shit, that person went down. People are going to be going down right and left. Actually, people are going to be going down left. But it's going to be, and I don't know if you guys heard the comment which Katie Porter made, which I know her campaign staff made sure to get that perfect quote out there to help, boost her notoriety before these primaries coming up. But what she said was she was talking to House Democrats. She started telling them about the problems with inflation. And they all were like, what? That's not even in my polling data. Because they're so detached that they don't even get what the hell's going on. But what she was bringing up is the inflation in goods, how expensive things have been getting. Now, of course, all that has to do with this whole, conflict that's going on, or what I like to call a civil war over there in Ukraine. But because these Democrats don't have a pulse on anything, and they're counting on these same suburban voters. And I honestly think that base, which they're used to, because here's another thing. The base which keeps Democrats in office are black voters for the most. These very black voters, for one, on a regular, consistent basis, do not come out for primaries. That's already going to be against you. Two, the fact that the Republicans are pumped up. They know that this is an opportunity to seize. And so wait till the ads start coming out. You're going to have the mandate stuff is going to be an issue. You're going to have the inflation stuff that's going to be an issue. I honestly, believe it or not, I think some of the LGBTQ community, some of the push on some of those issues are going to come back and bite Democrats in the ass too. So, I think that they got a lot of fires to put out in a lot of different ways, and I don't think they're doing anything to prepare for it. And I think they're just going to get smacked upside the head.
Yeah, to answer your question, I think all the Democrats have right now are a couple of grooved curveballs that Salvador Perez is hitting out of the park very easily with this Roe versus Wade, then the whole trying to and just ease off of the mandates just in time for the elections to come around, then I just don't think people are going to forget how Biden is the inflation king right now. The right is actually in more of an agreement with how we're seeing what's going on with Russia and Ukraine, while the left is turning, the elected left is extremely pro-war, and we're about to transition into the spending bill that they're trying to get through the House and Senate.
Oh, I didn't even think about that's another good point. Great point you brought up, Andrew. That's going to bite them in the ass too, because while they've been telling the let's call it the activist left, you know, while they've been telling them, oh well, we're going to take care of you once we get into office. Those people who got conned into voting for Biden. The fact that they're not getting literally anything. And they're telling them, hey, we don't have the money for this. We don't have the money for this. We don't have the money for that. We don't have the money for this. And then they're literally just making it rain on Ukraine like a stripper. I mean, that's going to come back to bite them all in the ass.
Yeah, so let's compare a couple of notable voices in the House and how they sound on this. And we'll start off with Nancy Pelosi.
Impact that it is having on food for the world. So when you're home thinking, what is this all about? Just think about when I was hungry, you fed me, in the Gospel of Matthew. It also is so pleased that Mr. Meeks, the chairman of the Foreign Affairs Committee, was with us, because we talked about sanctions, the impact that.
You're a man of faith, Marcus, so I'll let you go in on this.
That quote has pissed me off. I haven't commented on it yet, but the fact that this fucking bitch of all people is going to literally try to use the Bible for talking about this, think about they're hungry. How many fucking Americans are hungry right now? You don't give two shits about them in your own district. Literally, your district is the most expensive. Well, I have to double check, but as far as I know, it's literally the most, if one of the most, if not the most expensive district in the entire country. Kicking people out right and left, gentrification, and I think a stat came up that something like 30 million could solve could solve hunger and
20 million
the whole,
billion for homelessness.
Yeah, the amount of money you guys have thrown out just to Ukraine alone could have solved so many problems. Imagine what $1 billion could have done in most of these inner cities across the country. That would have actually kept you guys in power. I mean, and hello to Jason out there.
Hey, Jason.
But the fact that this woman has the gall and nerve to even try to bring a Bible verse up, I mean, just know. Now, granted, through my beliefs, I do not believe in hell in the traditional sense like most people do. Like that there's going to be, that there's this underworld that you're going to burn in. But, I do believe she's going to burn. In this different kind of way. Well, they call it, I do believe a lake of fire, and the lake of fire is going to be an actual place. And I believe, DC is going to get wrapped up into that lake of fire. And hopefully she's comfortable, Or I've heard reports that certain countries are looking at possibly using weaponized EMPs. Let the power go off in America for an entire week and see how fast this country destroys itself. All I'm saying is you let all these people have no cameras up and see how safe old Nancy feels. Fucking 40 billion, and that's 40 billion to Ukraine right now. That's not even thinking about the other, the other, what was it, 57 billion, and then another 30 billion here, and then I mean, how long before they hit $1 trillion? Is that the goal? And then think about it. How many other nations which you don't give two flying fucks about? Who cares about what's going on in Yemen? Even though that's the worst humanitarian, cause that's going on right now in the world. Don't worry about that. Ignore that completely. So I mean, I hate to say it this way, but I guess you have to be white and going through this stuff for people like Nancy to care. I mean, sorry. That if I gotta be careful what I say because before, remember how like they were saying like, oh, it's all right for you to be able to say, kill Russians and stuff like that. And so social media gave a little avenue for you to be able to say some horrible shit. I mean, I wish they would open that up for us to be able to say that up evenly, across the board, because there's some things I would love to say to Nancy. Yeah, Nancy. It says Nancy always pulls out the Bible or kente cloth when it's convenient. This woman, literally, I'm surprised she doesn't catch on fire walking to a church. I mean, this is literally a horrible individual. And this is also why those of you guys who are still out there supporting people like AOC and the squad, this is the reason why don't shit happen. Because they're all mama bear. They're all grabbing onto her skirt like grandma's making them some ice cream out of her new fancy fridge.
Nancy.
Yes. Nancy.
Try to do a little Kit Cabell impersonation. How was that? So
not bad. I mean, we had Kit on the show the other day, which I got him to say it, so it was definitely fun.
If I stay committed to my longer hair, it may pretty much be like his in due time.
Hey, there you go. There you go. Says, Chris says, there's a lot wrong with these people in a number of ways. I mean, I kind of can I wish I think I can wish. I would like for our politicians to get the same treatment which politicians get in Europe. I mean, can we at least get somebody like, remember the Bush thing? Now he went into his Neo mode and dodged them both, but can we get just one reporter to throw a shoe at Nancy? Please. I mean, we know how drunk she is. She ain't dodging shit. So catch her right in the forehead.
But with the way that this Ukraine thing is turning into, they're now becoming the United States imperialist left hand man, and Ukraine is becoming like a third member of like a wrestling faction, except Ukraine is the one that is always taking all the beatings from the baby faces, while United States and Israel are always going to get away before they do.
The thing about it is they're only going to get along for, I mean, only get away for so long. Yes, and Allie, you might be right. It might be more than liquor that she's on. I mean, she might have the last remaining stash of Quaaludes, but and she's been sharing them with Dianne Feinstein. But I look at it like this. You look throughout history, most empires that were able to stay on top, the limit is about 250 years. About 250 years, you start going downhill. Oh, this fuckface. These people are all so cringe. I forget about these people.
Now it's time to get into the sad part. Is in this moment, Marjorie Taylor Greene outflanks the progressives on this issue of war.
Here's a formula for the destruction of democracy, repeating Putin's propaganda and disinformation and appeasing imperialist assaults on sovereign nations. Here's a
Oh, I thought it was
formula
in the
for the
video,
destruction of
but she said 40 billion for Ukraine, but there's no baby formula for American mothers and babies. Stop funding regime change and money laundering scams. And that video below is how Jamie Raskin responded to that quote.
Or you can do what I do. I add a T in his name. Just call him Jamie Ratskin, because he's pretty weaselly, just like a rat. That goes back to that Katie Porter thing. A lot of these people do not know that there's a baby food shortage. They also don't know that like on meats are skyrocketing right now. We literally have droughts going on all over the place. I mean, we covered that not too long ago on the political matrix, how the droughts are all over the country. There are so many things going on that is just like flying right over these mostly octogenarians who are ruling everything. And when you've been sitting there for so long in power, you're impervious to everything that's going on around you. And their staff, if their staff tries to even close to give them any information, that staff member won't be there for very much longer. They're like, hey, our job is to get this money from the donors and pass it out. That's it. And then we get a big check for passing out the money. Now shut the fuck up and go get the money. That's what our politicians do. And it's not just like Bernie's always talking about the $1 billion and the $1 million and the $1 billion. No. It's bigger than that.
Kelly with a good comment here. I literally know 3 people that are affected by the formula outage, and not one person gives a shit about Ukraine.
Because most real people don't give 2 shits about Ukraine. Think about it. If you went back into a time machine, go back 6 months ago, and you're like, have you ever heard of this place called Donbass? Odessa, Ukraine? Mariupol? None of these people were going to know what any of that shit is, nor did they give 2 flying fucks. I know people where I'll tell them, yeah, in 2014, you had this coup that happened. Huh? They'd have no clue about any of this shit. They have no clue about even into Russia, how we subdued politicians in there to put our own plants in office. We've been doing this all over the place. Sorry about that. A little loud, but they don't know about all this shit that's been going on. And I kind of feel sorry for them sometimes that they're oblivious, but at the same time I don't, because a lot of them are so forceful in their ignorance that they know more than you.
Yeah, they love using straw mans like Ali just brought up here.
It always has to go to Trump, because
or Putin apologist.
That's like when you're dealing with somebody and they run out of stuff to talk about, and so they always put the onus back on you. It's like you'll be like, well, LeBron James did score 40 the other night. What did the guy on your team do? And they're like, oh, well, but he plays for the Lakers, and didn't Kobe Bryant have some stuff with a girl in Denver? Yeah, I got you. And it's like, what? You had to really dig that much out of your ass to fucking find some kind of pushback, because you have no this is what they do. Trump has been out of office how long? Quite a while. And even there's ones who are like, well, I mean, if Trump, I have to vote for Biden again if Trump gets in. I can't let Trump get back in the office. Even if Trump did get back in the office, he would be a lame duck president. Does anybody not realize that when they break up your terms, you don't get very much done. Anybody who does a 4-year term doesn't get much done. You're gonna get yes, Chris, they do. They swear they know they shit. Swear they know they shit. Like I think about how many are like, well, and there's a news agency which I listen to on occasion. They do some good work, but they also do some shitty work. Weon or Gravitas, and they'll talk about, yes, are there, as the Azov Battalion, Nazis? Are there actual Nazis? Yeah, but there's only like 900 to 2,000. If you're just looking at that, then that sounds not very threatening, right? Until you look into how many government officials and mayors support the Azov Battalion. Quite a bit of them. And so if you have political power, doesn't matter what your numbers are, just like a certain other group in this country, which is very small in numbers, but has a lot of political power. Actually, not only political power. They have power in entertainment industry, whether that's music, whether that's film, whether that's social media platforms, and even in sports. This small group of people actually own more than half of the sports teams. And so it doesn't matter about what your overall population is. It matters the control and influence you actually have. And they don't like to talk about, oh, that's right, Alec, and tech power. So let's not forget this. I mean, I remember when I started finding out certain companies, I was like, that person is that too? Really? I did not know that. It's blown away. The country is the Silicon Valley of the world. Yes, that country is the Silicon Valley of the world. And my audience is wise enough, those who watch my content, and my good friend over there, Ali, who has done collaborations, and we've had conversations. They know who I'm talking about, and so they're almost kind of like Voldemort. Now we say the name Voldemort, but it was a certain point when you couldn't even say the name. I mean, you almost have to treat them kind of like Candyman. You say that name too many times past the mirror, and something bad's going to happen to you.
Now I think it's a good time to get WCSN's next question up. Who will the mainstream media say is donating to candidates? With a lot less people with discretionary funds, 98%ers become disillusioned with both parties, and you can't write off donations to less than 30,000.
Well, what I believe that they'll start doing is they'll start getting them to break it up. And what they'll do is they'll get employees or executives, and maybe not the highest level, but get a couple of the managers, and then have those managers within those firms donate the money in separate increments. So it looks like, oh, well, this was 15,000. Well, this was 5,000. But what it actually is they've split up 2 million amongst a group of people and gave it all individually. So it sparses it out and you can't see it as well. But they always have a trick. Trust me. Because you got to remember, if you're coming up with a rule, you've already came up with the end around to get past that rule.
My answer to this is I really don't think it's really as much of the everyone else truly disillusioned enough with the idea of being staunchly against the principal idea of donating to politicians. There's always going to be new people who fall for the grift, or there's that candidate that they're not like everyone else. They're the ones that are supposed to come in and change the system. And don't forget, some of these synthetic lefties are going to tell you to donate for those progressives, the same ones that when the Democrats get slaughtered next in this midterms, they're going to try to do the whole moral victory thing if they add another squad member or two.
Yeah, I mean, we got to remember TYT, they still have people that listen to them. They still have people who give them money for some crazy reason. you still got the Sam Cedars out there. You still got the David Packmans. You got the Humanist Report. Well, yeah, that's Mike Figueredo. You still got the David Doles out there. You got the I mean, there's so many the David Packmans out there. You still got the people who are going to sheep herd you in, and you got enough of those people who are completely low information voters who are going to fall for the whole orange man bad, Biden savior, that they're going to throw money out there when they call out. And they have those messages where, you know, hey, all we need, Johnny, all we need is your $5. If you can put in $5, you can help defeat Trump and Marjorie Greene. That you're going to get that kind of stuff, and people are going to be dumb enough to fall for it. Get
Hey,
extra
Uncle Warren. Did you see us try to say we said hi to you while we were live?
I mean, you're always going to have these people. Like I know somebody literally that I listen to them, and they're still, they feel like, man, if Trump get into power, he's going to release the racists, and the racists are going to be coming for us. Okay. Sure. If you say so, buddy. I'm like, to me, you sound as cuckoo as the same people who are like, hey, man, under this pizza shop here, there's this ring, and they're like slaughtering babies inside there, and you sound QAnon to me. But I'll just leave it at that. And part of the QAnon thing is it's always one-sided. You can only see one side doing the wrong, and that's the same thing with the blue MAGA. They only see the other side as the evil. I mean, but hey, what can I say?
And also, you know that the ploy on people is going to be, even with as terrible as Biden's been, is this is like the abuser that you're familiar with. This other one, you don't know how they're going to hurt you, so you should stick with what you're comfortable and familiar with, maybe, or can at least develop tolerance for.
I mean, I look at it like this. If they were still able to get the amount of black people out to vote for so-called one racist or one guy who said some racist comments or racially charged comments versus a guy who has literally done racist laws and legislations and affected the black community specifically have been harmed by Joe Biden for 50 years. This man was, because people forget, it wasn't just the super predator stuff. He was down with the Iran-Contra shit. He was down with the pumping drugs into the communities. He was down with it all. And with all this war stuff, you know who a lot of the people, a lot of black and brown people go to the military for an escape, to get that education money. So when they're starting all these wars, who do you think he's putting on the front lines most of the time? So, I mean, that's another way. Not to mention the bankruptcy bills under Bush. He was on board with that. I mean, and if this dude had his way back in the 90s, or no, not 90s, but early 2000s, there would be no bankruptcy protections. Social Security might be gone. I mean, all kind of stuff. And so I know some people are like, well, I'm not old enough for Social Security. Well, do you have a mother or grandmother who receives it and they're basically living on that alone? What happens if you got to start supporting them out of the little bit of money you have? That's often not thought about. That becomes an extra cost on you. So all of these things accumulate, and Joe Biden, when he got into power, I'm like, how do you put somebody in power who literally says that he wanted to prostitute himself for the wealthy? I mean, not to mention all the scandals he's been caught up in, and look at what they're doing now with this disinformation bureau. trying to cover up the Hunter Biden stuff and the Burisma. That was common knowledge before during the election period. But let's just cover it all up. Let's smooth it all over. Let's bring out this creepy ass Mary Poppins chick, and she's going to be the decider of everything. And I mean, I know you shouldn't be judgmental about people's voices, but she literally sounds like, you know, some annoying ass, like, you know, the annoying ditzy like wealthy girl which you see in these movies where they're like super snobs and like, oh girl, let's go to the mall. She reminds me of one of those. These fucking just look down their nose, snobby, mean girl clique who they allowed to get power.
So, chat, let's take a moment to flood it with poop emojis for Nina Jankowicz as we get back away from a tangent and get to the last part of this Ukraine spending development. And that's the fact that Rand Paul's objection has delayed this current aid package.
Hey, let's go, Rand Paul. I mean, I normally don't really. Maybe his father been putting some pearls in his ear. Yes, put them poop emojis. Hopefully somebody can, you know. When I worked corrections, I remember that was like a threat that like some of them would do. Like they would break off a piece of metal in there, and you had to go in and get it. And so like they would literally like this one guy, he like literally rubbed poop all over himself. It's like, I'm shitty, man. Come get me. It's like, no, but hopefully somebody will rub poop on some of them, preferably in the eyes, nose, or mouth. That would be that would give me quite joy and delightment.
Rand Paul did something decent, and Keith Olbermann wants to punch him. Of course, scum.
I wish we lived in a world where you actually had to defend your own mouth, and Keith Olbermann had to defend like how he talks to people, and like somebody put him in front of Rand Paul. It's like, all right, now you got to say this shit to his face and see what happens. Because just my opinion, when I look at Keith Olbermann and listen to him, all kind of bitch is just oozing through his system. I mean, complete effeminate male energy is running through him. Like that's the type of man where if society fell, his wife and kids are fucked. I mean, period. He is not defending shit. They are going to starve. His wife is about to become somebody else's. I mean, it's not going to be a good day for his family because I do not see any reality where that man can defend himself. But yeah, Rand, I hope his father, father's talking to him, I guess.
I mean, Rand Paul does have these moments of having some mixed good anti-war rhetoric and action, and it's just another example of how sad the elected progressives are when you got Rand Paul being in the position that you're supposed to be in, which is the one to object. And this is something that you should be doing on principle, whether it affects the outcome of a vote or not. But as we've seen with the squad and other elected progressives over this past near year and a half, is the fact that they're always going to vote in a way that allows the result to go in their favor, or the rare moments where, oh, we'll come up with someone else to help all of you save face, like they did when they tried to get that their first attempt to get that Build Back Better spending through, which is dead in the and drowning.
I mean, build back bullshit. That's what I call it. I mean, it's fucking ridiculous. I mean, and how I look at like Rand Paul right now, like verbally, this dude is running him around like Rocky Balboa and just like punching everybody right now. And so That's a good thing. I mean, we can't get anybody on the left to do it. Well, guess we'll take this jackal. I mean, all of this stuff is just it's a game. It's a silly, sad, pathetic game, and the fact that so many people can't see through it is the most frustrating part. I mean, it's a big old club. We're not in it.
And the thing is since the country is so far shifted to the right, that the right has such a high comfort level with electoralism right now, and the fact that the left thinks that trying to fight in that avenue is going to help get any type of progress to happen.
I mean, they still, and I look at the people who actually think that we are gaining some kind of progress, and like, wow, how? I mean, what are you on to believe that? I mean, it's embarrassing. So has Congress brought Kavanaugh and Gorsuch into questioning them about lying to Congress yet? No, but after that red wave happens, that shit's going down for sure.
That's an example
Pelosi might lose her seat. I mean, she might go back into the minority.
That's an example of what happens when you're in the club. You get protected, and they immediately pass a bill to get you more security when people start to protest at your homes. And even just about all the Democrats help it go through as well.
I mean, these back in the day, they used to talk about how they would make deals in smoke-filled rooms. Now they do it on Twitter, and they bring out a couple of people on the right to. Now, I'm not saying that Rand Paul is staging this or faking this, but a Marjorie Taylor Greene, I honestly think that this woman is just doing everything for political motivation. She knows what the base wants. She's reacting to it just like Trump did. How much of the shit does she believe? I don't know. But I know that she's playing it up because it works. Just like that other was that Bobbert whatever, little silly. She looks like somebody who should be babysitting than actually in Congress. Sorry. But
Lauren Boebert.
Yes, that fucking knuckle dragger. I mean, she's attractive, but she's fucking dumb as a box of rocks.
And her district is like a good 3-4 hour drive away from Denver.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
I mean, maybe that Mile High is doing something to people. I mean, a little thinning of the brain and oxygen to some of these people, a little bit too much.
But speaking of Denver, I think it's a good time to get into the last story of the night, and it'll give you a chance to get into a bit of your Chiefs talk. And it's related to Broncos wide receiver Jeudy getting arrested Thursday afternoon by the Arapahoe County Sheriff's Office. Professional football player Jeudy has been arrested by Arapahoe County Sheriff deputies. He's being held at the Arapahoe County Jail of charges of second-degree criminal tampering with a domestic violence enhancer, a misdemeanor. He's on a no bond hold. He's innocent until proven guilty, the sheriff's office said in a statement posted to Twitter. Colorado doesn't have specific statutes for domestic violence, but the state has domestic violence enhancements to the statutes that already exist. Jeudy, according to the sheriff's office, was taken into custody between 11:30 and 12:30 p.m. So what are your thoughts when you heard this story earlier today, Marcus?
See, I have to answer this in two ways. I got to answer this first on the, as a person, and then I'll answer it as a sports fan. So those are definitely two different opinions. As a person, I'm like, I don't understand these athletes and how they keep getting into these situations. Do I know that he actually did it? No, I don't know for a fact. I mean, there has been situations where things have been blown out of proportion. Then there's some of these cases where some of the stuff is far worse than what we imagined to be. I often remember the baseball player who was in the stairwell on camera. He was just like going to town, like pimp slapping the hell out of his girl. It was horrible. I mean, horrible. And then he like picks her up and like, all right, now let's go out. You know, because first they walk into the stairwell and they're all calm. And I don't know, you might have seen it before because you're a sports guy, so you
Yes.
might remember this. But like he first starts off with a hard backhand to her right on camera, and then repeatedly punches her and kicks her, and then picks her back up and all right, let's go on out in front of people. I'm like, wow. And then you had the Ray Rice situation on camera where he cold cocks his girl and then drags her out like a caveman. I mean, so I know that it does happen. Also do know that sometimes there are people out there who are trying to make money. I just think that if you're in a situation where you're dealing with a significant other, you know, or just somebody you're just kind of like loosely dating, if you ever get to that situation or that level where you feel like I'm about to choke this hoe, anytime you get to that point, run, get the hell out. I mean, one of my friends I was in the Navy with, his father told him this advice, and I know that this might not be a popular opinion, so I'm couching that first. He used to say, women are like buses. There's another one that's going to show up 5 minutes later. So do not spend all this energy in a negative relationship. And, you know, you can flip that. Men are the same way. Actually, men are probably worse. Men are probably like droplets. Like, you know, there's a droplet which is falling on you and evaporating before you even realize it. But, you know, do not stay in negative relationships. And if you're arguing and fighting, always keep in the back of your head, all men, that this can elevate into that kind of situation. What I used to do when I was married is my ex-wife would like piss me off to the point where I wanted to literally put hands on her multiple times. And then I learned something. Wait a minute. She's super she's super big on material things. So all I'd have to do is like mess up some material shit. I can always rebuy another whatever, pillow, comforter, whatever. So like we were arguing. I had a big cup of like Hawaiian punch. And see, there's an aspect of society that encourages toxic relationship. Yes, it does. All I did was I took that cup. She's just after like 3-4 hours and said, yeah, just right down the middle of that comforter. Stop that argument real quick. I mean, it's like she literally got like, it's like when Bambi's mom got shot. That's what happened to her. She was so distraught. Probably if I would have hit her, it probably wouldn't have been as worse. But that destroyed her. And sometimes you can do that. I mean, I knew that I can go to like the refrigerator magnets and just go push them all off on the floor and walk out the room. Ends the argument instantly. Because when you're dealing with somebody who's so materialistic, I'm not even advocating that you should destroy people's stuff, but anything else but laying hands on somebody. I mean, you're an NFL player. There are gazillions of women that are sitting up there literally ready to like choke another bitch out to be with you. Do not fuck it up for this one here. Do not waste your life or your career. Now, as a Chiefs fan, you guys just got Russell Westbrook. I mean, not Russell Westbrook. Russell Wilson.
That would not be a very good quarterback.
No, it would not. It would be fucking horrible. Probably maybe a tight end, maybe. But But you guys just got Russell Wilson. Even though I think he's probably lost a step, I still think he can be dangerous. And him being down one extra receiver does happen to work out just a little bit for the Chiefs. Now you're going to encourage a name problem, probably. But I feel like anything you're going to do to help hurt your team, and that's when I was athlete back in the day, that was one of my biggest things. I always thought about my team. If I do X, am I going to be able to still contribute to helping the team? Even though this woman has said some messed up stuff to me, do I want to risk all what I have going on for it? I mean, the Will Smith thing is a perfect example. You could have handled that shit so many millions of ways differently. Let's go on the premise that this was a real event, not staged. Because that's a whole nother discussion. But if this is a real event, you could have handled this so many different ways. Even if you just yelled. But the moment you got up and put hands on somebody, you fucked up now. So let's just have more self-control, people in general. I mean, even though I come from the old school mentality where men, if we have a problem, we normally do solve it by using our hands. But that needs to be also a mutual agreement. I mean, if like me and Andrew, we had a beef or whatever, and we're like, all right, man, we're gonna fight, we're gonna handle this, and then whoever wins. The shit's over with. Shake hands, it's over with. That's how shit used to go when I was growing up. In fact, a lot of my good friends I had is because we fought each other at one point in time. I mean, and we were able to solve that problem and move past it. But you got to remember, you don't have that same kind of, that's like what we talked about with the equality. You know, everything's not entirely equal. I don't believe in that level of equality. Like, yeah, I'll hit a man, and so a woman needs to be prepared to be hit also. No, I don't think like that. I got to share my grandma's advice. Keep this in mind too, women. This is advice for you all. My mom was like, a man should never, ever, 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 under any circumstances, ever put his hand on a woman. And I'm like, what if she's trying to kill you? I mean, you should be able to, defend yourself, right? And she's like, all right for that. My grandma was like, a woman should never put herself in the place of a man. So what she's saying is, don't be getting up in your man's face, spitting on him, slapping him and all that. Because whether we're not saying it's right, but you are bringing on this situation. The Rihanna Chris Brown situation. A lot of people don't know some of the stuff that was said. I was privy to be able to hear some of the stuff that was, to know about some of the stuff that was said. And when you know somebody was almost to the point of being abused by their stepfather, used to beat on them, and you hit those kind of low blows in arguments, probably shouldn't be things you should do. I'm just saying. It can make a person who normally wouldn't do some shit like that do some shit that they shouldn't. So, man, learn how to start fucking walking away. Some of these women, that's their goal. They're like, yes, he hit me. Oh, I'm about to sue his ass. Some people are waiting for that just so they can take advantage of you. She might even feel like, you know what? I don't even care about the money. I just want to destroy his career. So, can't do this, guys.
Yeah, it's crazy how often these type of stories will come up. I mean, a couple of weeks ago, me and Cy were talking about Trevor Bauer. Then the next day, MLB announces a 2-year suspension for him. And now we're to the point with Jeudy, where his short-term future is up in flux over what could have easily been avoided. And knowing the NFL and the way they like to act as its own independent law enforcement, this could be something that leads to him being on the commissioner's exempt list for a while, even with no type of real law ruling on this.
Which, I mean, it's a possibility either way that, even if the actual law enforcement doesn't like even if they
Yeah, we
don't
know
like throw
that.
down the hammer on him, even if he kind of gets off, the league, that's a whole different story. What
Oh
they
yeah,
might do.
the real law didn't find anything Ezekiel Elliott, but you're still suspended 6 games.
Mhm.
And while that Josh Brown, who did admit to, I think, abuse, only gets 1 game. So that's the wild inconsistencies of the NFL acting as a ruling force.
The Dante Stallworth thing. I mean, remember that? I mean, this dude like committed manslaughter, killed a woman, and he only gets a couple of games out, and he's back playing again. It's like, what the hell? I mean, I don't know this for a fact, but what about Ray Lewis there? It is a rumor that he might have caught a body. But I mean, then you have somebody like Plaxico Burress who shoots himself in the leg, and it almost destroys his damn football career. I mean, wild inconsistency. You have somebody like in Major League Baseball, Pete Rose, who literally bets on himself and gets his baseball career ruined. He's never going to be able to make the Hall of Fame. He wasn't like throwing games so that he could, so that he was literally like, my team is prepared and they're going to go out there and beat ass, and I'm going to bet that my team's going to beat ass. You should be happy that you have a coach that's that confidence. Then you have the damn Patriots, all the fucking cheating they have. I mean, Bob Kraft shouldn't have a team anymore. He should have had to fucking sell that shit. But then you have Donald Sterling, who says a couple of racist comments, which I'm pretty sure most of the owners have said shit just like that. He has to sell his team. But then you have that fucker Dan Snyder, who was able to keep a team, and he's probably all the shit that he's done and said. And
Oh yeah, we think you've learned from your past mistakes well enough now. Now that you've put a better figurehead of a coach in place in Ron Rivera.
oh boy. I mean, at least he's a good coach. I'll say that. I mean, that we can say about him. He's a good coach, and you can say that with a lot of them when you start going into what some of these guys have done and what some of these guys do. Like right now, I'm watching the Winning Time about the Lakers, and that is, for those who haven't checked it out, it gives a lot of context to some shit I kind of loosely remember. I don't remember this first part because this is right before it starts in 80. Or no, actually 79.
Yep.
Yes, shot himself, went to prison. Gotta love New York. Exactly, because it's fucking stupid gun laws. I mean, it's like the same thing which they had with the whole COVID thing, remember? If you were from a visiting team, you could play in New York, even though you weren't vaccinated. But if you weren't vaccinated, you couldn't play, even if you're going to. I'm like, what? That doesn't make any sense. Now, I guess it don't
And I
have
think
to
that
make sense.
also applied in San Francisco as well.
Yes. So yeah, well, San Francisco and LA, I think. But I'm trying to remember which. What was it like for like the baseball team in Anaheim? That was different there. I'm like, what? Anaheim's not that far from LA. How are you gonna have fucking different laws? I mean, it's the same thing happened out here in Orange County. Orange County, you go down to Orange County, nobody's wearing a mask. Nobody's having to do any of that stuff. You get to certain parts of LA County. You got to show that you've been vaccinated and pull out these cards, and you got to wear your mask to your table and all this crazy stuff. But yet, just go over to this county that's a little bit south. and none of that shit's going on. I mean, gotta love, you know, hypocrisy and duality that's always going on.
Yeah, and also when you show the woke performativeness, and when it comes to mask, then you take those people to an area that's a majority Hispanic and majority Black, and you don't see very many of them wearing masks when you go to a store, and how
It,
that blows their brain up.
except for punk ass California, I don't know. I'd be looking at. I mean, honestly, if there's any Black people who are watching this, you guys from California, or any Latinos, what the fuck is wrong with y'all? I mean, y'all still really believe this bullshit that you guys hear from the fucking Democrats? Still? Now I know I go to the hood back in KC and be like, man, we ain't been wearing that shit fucking forever. We ain't gonna wear that bullshit. The only ones who, honestly, if somebody is wearing a mask where I grew up, you probably should be more worried. There's a good chance they're gonna rob your ass. So you probably should not want them to have a mask on. These comments are hilarious. These comments, wow. Kelly is a trip. She's in unique form tonight. Yes, do not do that. Yeah, keep a other gun ready in sweatpants.
Oh, she had me thinking about Malibu's Most Wanted when Gluckman shoots himself in the foot.
I mean, I mean, great movie. I might watch that sometime soon. Need to watch it again. I guess Atlanta had. Oh, I'm being good tonight, Marcus. Sure.
What about
tell yourself that? I saw that comment about somebody's body up there. So how is your body? I saw that. Think I don't see? Think I don't see what you guys got going on? Little sneaky asses.
With the carriages and swings.
Oh, I know how they be getting down. Because yeah, he saw the sign that opened up his eyes. I guarantee you. Speaking of sports, pretty sure they're trying hard into that New Rico. Ooh. That's bad. I hope not. I don't know. Have you heard anything about that, Andrew? About Harden might get wrapped into that whole Rico
James
case?
Harden?
Yeah.
No, that would be new to me, but I believe the Sixers did get eliminated tonight.
I mean, Cheddar Bob. I'm trying to remember what song was that in. He was like, with a deuce like Cheddar Bob, bang yourself. Beanie Siegel, I think. It's that line from. I don't know. Chris is my resident hip hop head, so he's always gonna correct me if I'm wrong. Harden tweeted YSL in 2011. Huh. I mean, this is a day and era where, you know, some of these people are tweeting out like shit just gets. Oh, I was right. It was Beanie Siegel.
There goes your $50+ million potential supermax that he could sign, even though he really doesn't deserve it.
Man, I'm telling you, I don't know in the chat who knows much about Peyton Manning, but I would have been straight up like Peyton Manning. Peyton Manning, when he played, would literally have all his parties at his home. He didn't go out anywhere, and none of the dirt of what was going on in his parties ever leaked out because he kept a tight circle of friends, and he kept whatever wild shit happened at those parties. You start going out, and like I remember, what was his name? Dale Carter for the Chiefs. I don't know if the cops in that area, trying to remember what part of town was that, near Westport in downtown KC. I don't know if they were all Denver fans or something, but somehow they always knew when Dale Carter was out drunk driving and always found a way to fucking arrest his ass for drunk driving. I'm like, damn, these people fucking hate this dude. I mean, he got arrested like 4 or 5 times for drunk driving by the same fucking cops over and over and over. Pretty suspicious to me. Yeah, I stay my ass at home right now. I mean, and when I was living in Florida, we used to have what was called back porch parties. They do everything at the house, like yeah. So that way, anybody have too much to drink, you can chill out here. You don't have to go nowhere. You can stay here. Also, we ain't got to worry about dressing up, and then you don't have to worry about fucking being at a place you think it's gonna stay open till 2, then 1:15 the lights come on, and now you all got to get the hell out. See, they brought a RICO case on 5 guys in Chicago last year. FBG Duck. Everyone thinks Dirk is behind that. I don't know. I'm seeing a bunch of RICO cases last. Yeah, that is strange, Ali. There has been a lot of RICO cases. There has been a lot of people getting swept up. I mean, I'm wondering if they just got somebody who's been doing a lot of damn snitching. I mean, we do know somebody by the name of Tekashi 6ix9ine who's, been released not that long ago. And I'm wondering if they're like, he was like, hey, so, Lil Durk now, this is what they doing over there. So after I get out, let me be out for a while. Let me get my music going again. And then, you can pop him. So that looks like my hands are clean. That's almost what it feels like. Somebody, like Chris says, somebody's out there snitching. I mean, and it's obviously somebody who's connected with all these people. Who could it be who would be on that level and would know? You said, I just learned he lives here too. Chris, you better watch out. He gonna snitch on your ass.
So I think one last thing to ask you is, have you been to Denver before and have any past experiences here?
I have been to Colorado. I have not been to Denver. And I had a great time when I was there. Except for like one problem I had. Like at that time, I used to play basketball like every day. Like during the summer, we would go out and we would get to like the YMCA at like 6 a.m. And of course, in between like games that you lost, or we go get some food and go get some water and shit, we would literally play ball from 6 a.m. to like 10 at night. And so after doing that months and months and months, we went to Denver. Not Denver. We were in what was it? Colorado Springs. I think at that time we were in Colorado Springs before we went to Pagosa Springs, because we went up there to Pagosa for the my aunt. She had these condominium things, so we go up there for that, and we went to like El Dorado also. And I remember playing like 2 games, and my heart felt like it was gonna jump out of my chest. It was like one of the most brutal things ever. I was like, I thought I was in good shape. Not Denver, man. That thin air is a trip. We had a great time up there. I always grew up being a big Batman fan too, and so that's where I saw Batman Returns. Saw it like when it first came out in the theaters when I was in El Dorado. So had a lot of fun there. And we were doing a little bit of everything: bike riding, kayaking, all this different stuff that was going on. I think I like chickened out at that time on the whitewater rafting, but I did like the little kayaking in the steel parts. So, I mean, I definitely would love to get back up there again. My cousin lived in Denver for a while. I got literally, I'm gonna have my stories is I have a cousin literally everywhere. So, I mean, damn near every city you can think of. I got either somebody who's lived there, living there, or I've been there. You know, so
I
that's
know
not
it's
hyperbole. I just have a
yeah.
big ass fucking family.
I know that Cy on Tuesday was telling me that he'd like to come visit here in Denver.
Mm-hmm. Oh, that's right. Kelly, remind me, y'all got that creepy ass shit in y'all airport too.
Yeah, it
Creepy.
takes like 45 minutes to an hour to pretty much get anywhere back to the metro area from the airport.
Oh wow. And then I know you guys, the snow is a little bit worse up there.
Yeah, it was actually a weird year because after from about like mid March, that was like the last time we got any real snow in the metro area, and usually there's like one time or two that you get snow in April, and it's not gonna happen since it's already nearly halfway into May.
Oh wow. So I mean, maybe it is something to, you know, this change in climate because I mean, growing up, I used to remember, well, across the Midwest, just in general, it used to snow a lot more. And it's fucking reduced quite considerably over the years. You know, something for people to watch out. Law says anything is better than JFK and LaGuardia. I fucking hate LaGuardia. LaGuardia sucks ass. It sucks ass. And fucking O'Hare is too goddamn big. O'Hare is too fucking big. The same with I can't remember what Atlanta's airport is called. That's the same. That one also too fucking big. It's ridiculous. When I need to fucking like Chicago and O'Hare, you gotta like go get on a fucking train to go ride to another part of the airport to go run across another airport. I mean, it's like this. This is absurd. I mean, no, fucking KCI or MCI as they call it now in KC is fucking horrible. Also, Hartsfield, yes, Hartsfield. Yeah, I've been through all these different airports. Dallas Fort Worth flew through there a bunch of times. LAX sucks. San
Yeah,
Diego sucks to fly into. Jeez. I used to choose Midway also over O'Hare because Midway put us closer to downtown. Like I remember getting out of boot camp and taking Midway, and I literally was in my dress blues, you know, the Cracker Jack uniform. I had my sweater up under, long johns on, had my pea coat on, and I had like the trench coat on, and it felt like I was wearing a fucking t-shirt. I mean, I was like, it don't make no sense for this wind to blow this fucking hard. Chicago's can be brutal in the wintertime. LOL, Kelly, Cincinnati. Yeah, I actually haven't flown into Cincinnati. I've drove through Cincinnati. I've been all over Ohio. Tampa Airport is nice. Yeah, I've dropped people off there. I haven't flew out of Tampa or Orlando. I just flew out of shitty ass Jacksonville multiple times.
and I know that you're much more traveled than I am because I've really only gone to like the LA area, Vegas a couple times, Seattle, New Mexico, so nowhere east of Colorado yet for me. Yeah,
I've been
and
to what, about 30 states, maybe about 35 states at this point. And what, like 13, 14 countries. So I've done a lot of traveling. And believe it or not, a lot of the stuff across the states has been driving. Uh, Casey, yeah, fucking, well, it's Casey, Missouri. KCK doesn't even have an airport. Yes, Casey, Missouri's airport sucks. For one, you got to stand the whole time. For pretty much, there's like virtually hardly anywhere to sit, even when you get in the terminal. When you first get in, it honestly, it's like a ring. It's like little half rings. And when you get in, I mean, it's just a tiny little strip that you're standing there. So everybody's trying to get checked in, and then to get into it's so compacted the way it is. And especially once they start doing all of the what is it called? All the security shit, it became a fucking nightmare. I remember going into it when I was younger, like pre 9/11, and it wasn't as bad. But after 9/11, it just sucks dick. It's fucking horrible. They really need to just tear that shit down and then rebuild it. And on top of that, it's like 45 minutes from downtown. It's like way out in the middle of fucking nowhere for no damn reason. And a fun sports note, fun fact, Tyronn Lue grew up right out there by the airport in Mexico, Missouri. So kind of cool.
Yeah, I have a good way of remembering some of those random ass cities that athletes get listed as being from.
Well, I played against him before AAU ball, and then I played actually on an AAU team with Earl Watson, and we also went to high school together. Earl's 2 years older than me, but yeah. And then
So those would be your most the best athletes you probably played with or against.
yeah, I mean, I played against them. The Rush family. Um, I've gotten to play against. Oh, he was like semi-retired, almost retired at the time. Like he'd come out and play pickup games. Larry Drew back in the day when he played for the Lakers. Anthony Peeler come back, play some pickup games. So I've gotten to play against a handful of NBA players or play on teams with them. I actually got it was well for one it was when I was in high school and he was in college. So I'll put this out there first. But Baron Davis, I got dunked on by Baron Davis. That kind of sucked. That was not fun.
Were you glad that happened before people were able to record with cameras?
Oh, that's what I'm saying. There's so much stuff that I'm so glad that we didn't have cameras for. So much stuff. I mean, you know how much I would get canceled for some of the shit that I've done or said back in the day. Oh my god! Thank God for there was no camera phones back then. Oh man, yeah. He was what I think in his second year at UCLA, and I think it was my senior year in high school. And he was roommates with Earl Watson back then. So yeah, old memories. And I'm not nearly as tall as either one of them. I mean, I'm right at the 5'11", 6-foot height. Earl is definitely 6'2", and then Baron Davis was at least like 6'4", 6'5", something like that.
I think Barron's 6'3", but
Man,
it never made sense why the
think he's
NBA
6'4".
decided to do the height remeasurement thing for guys without shoes, since you don't play in a game without shoes on.
Exactly. I mean, every game I've ever played, I played with shoes on.
And if you lose a shoe, it's only for like a few seconds.
Exactly. So I mean, you might as well just measure them with the shoes on. I mean, it makes the most sense. But yeah, Ali's talking about cancel Marcus now. Oh yeah. That's the reason why when some of these politicians get in trouble for shit, especially if it was like back in the 90s, then I'm like, hey man, give them a little pass on that, man. Let that one go. But I mean, like for instance, like a Trudeau is like, bitch, you did that shit in like 2010, man. You should know better by now. I mean, it's like I remember being in high school where like those costumes and stuff, which are like you get canceled for, that was like just normal. That wasn't even a big deal. And in Kansas City, literally the county I grew up in is Wyandotte County. It literally has a Native American name. It literally has a tribe which is there, which runs a casino out of Wyandotte County on a graveyard, by the way, which is kind of creepy. But you'd be going to school with Native kids, and they had no problem with another kid wearing like you know, the stereotypical Indian stuff, or the tribes there had no problem with the chiefs using the namesake of the chiefs. But then you'd have some tribe that's out of like Montana, and they have a problem with the chief's name. I mean, now I get stuff like the Cleveland Indians thing, that's pretty jacked up. I get the, you know, with Daniel Snyder's having to, thank God he finally changed it from Redskins. That was like, how long could he keep that going? But a chief is a position of honor. That's not derogatory. And also, they've never decided to make some racist looking thing. It's so bad now. Color. Yes, it couldn't have been created. It couldn't have been. I mean, I remember this one episode of like, it's hard to find it now, but for like a short amount of time, Damon Wayans had a show called The Underground. That shit was so fucking funny. But he had this one skit with Aries Spears, and Aries Spears was kind of playing like you couldn't tell what Aries Spears was if he was male or female. And he would be like, "What you say your name is again?" And he would be like, "So, when you go to the bathroom, which bathroom do you go to?" So Aries Spears' character would never like be clear on anything. He was like, "All you need to know is that, you know, I know how to back it up good, and we could play a good game of basketball as teammates together." It's like, huh? I mean, so it was never giving the so that was one of the ongoing things. So I know the LGBT community would be like nuts about that now. Then like another one that they had was like, he was playing like this pimp, and he had his like whole ring of girls, but one of them was trans, and he'd be like, and the trans one would be like, "Daddy," he'd be like, "Told you, quit calling me that shit." But yeah, I mean, some of these shows, I mean, Carlos Mencia, his show couldn't be made now. Not at all. I mean, he literally was like, majority of the time talking about every other races, and literally be like, "This person's a beaner in hiding" and stuff. It's like, no, you couldn't. No way. Not. I mean, especially you have people who get offended now if you say Latino. No, you need to say Latinx. And it's like, you do realize you would have to do that with the whole entire language, right? You couldn't just change Latino and put a O. I mean, I wouldn't even know how to say a phrase anymore, because the whole language is gendered. And so some words are O, some words are A. I mean, how do you change all that into X's? I mean, it'll start sounding like Pig Latin or something. I mean, it would be, and I don't think these people who want to do that stuff and who get into that thinking have ever thought through any of this stuff. I mean, what are you going to do? Go change everybody's names? Now your name is not Mario and Maria. You're Mariex. I mean, come on. What are we doing here? Are we serious? This is how, and that's what happened when you have woke liberals who grow up in these, you know, suburban communities, who are not around these people, who decide that they want to make rules for these people based on what they feel and things connected to their life.
Yep, everyone I know.
I hate that term. I think it's fucking stupid. I mean, well, and studies show literally only like 3% of Latinos will even use the term. I mean, and that's not even factoring in if you start talking to Spanish-speaking Latinos, or ones who especially like Spanish is their only language. They would literally look at you like you were the dumbest person on earth if you came to them with that mess. But in a certain respect, we are dealing with some of the dumbest people on earth. Everything needs to be molded around and changed to fit their feelings. And this goes back into, at a time period, you had what was called helicopter parents. And those are the parents who they're already ready to rush in, and they're always monitoring, making sure kid is safe. And then you had the hovering parents, where they're like waiting. If the kid fell, they rush in and pick them up instantly. Oh my God, you're okay, you're okay. And so this extra babying of kids has made them so soft, and there's no tough skin anymore about anything.
Or
And
there's
that's
those parents also tend to do a lot of the, oh, well, my kid can't go with anyone else out in the family. Just me. I have to be there too.
I have to be there too. That's when they start going into the no score leagues. I'm like, there's no fucking way if I had a kid, I would put them in a no score league. Because in life, we win, we lose. That's the fact of life. You're not going to, if you do that, what you're teaching your kids is to never be able to accept winning or losing. How do you encourage? I mean, like for me, when I would go out and I would lose a game, that would make me practice harder so I didn't lose again. How do you encourage that if you take away that lesson? How do you learn a lesson from just playing a game and no scoring? Let's just have fun. Let's not hurt anybody's feelings. No, I get it. If the kids, that's the reason why they used to have forfeits. If you blew out the other team, they're like, all right, let's cut this. Our kids aren't really keeping up. And that's cool, but you can't, when you make your kids this soft, eventually these soft ass kids have to grow up. And then what happens? Now people like us have to deal with their fucking pain in the asses and all this weird shit that they fucking come up with because their parents has literally folded the whole world around them and made whatever they felt reality should be to be reality, regardless of if it was or not. It's almost like you're taking bad ideas and telling your kid, well, I mean, even though it's not acknowledging that some of their ideas are bad because you want to be their friend so much that you won't be a parent and prepare them for this world. I mean, most of these people, if they left from American soil and took these bonkers, crazy ass ideas to damn near any foreign country, they would learn really fast how ridiculous their thinking actually is.
Yeah, that was a pretty nice rant that kind of touched on the whole participation trophy culture, which I would want nothing to do with. Then, if I ever had kids, which I honestly doubt it because I personally wouldn't want kids of my own, I think they would have to learn on principle that if they try to do some elements of like participation awards, that to turn it down and not take it.
I would have to homeschool, period. I would have to literally quit everything and just homeschool because I would not want to take my kids to any of these schools. I mean, I watched a video the other day. This father was ticked off because this teacher made his son wear a dress. Why? If this parent over here, their kid says that that they want to wear dresses, that's between them and their kid. Don't make my kid wear a dress because your kid wants to wear a dress. That doesn't make sense to me. I mean, and then I've heard of schools where, for one, they're like not teaching cursive anymore. That's a problem. Some of these schools aren't teaching multiplication. There's a lot that these schools are, but they want to put sexuality in your heads first and foremost at an early age. That's a problem for me. I mean, I grew up, and then I'm pretty sure, hopefully for most of you guys, this was the same. We didn't know jack shit about what was going on with our teacher's personal life. Our teacher could have went home with Alf and we would have known. We didn't know. Most of us, if we found out our teacher's first name, that was like some kind of top secret information that we had. It's like, oh, her first name is Sandra. Cool. I mean, we didn't know
The name of their
jack about.
spouse.
We didn't know the name of their spouse. We didn't know what part of town they lived in. We didn't know much about most of our teachers. And I had no problem with that. Now we need to know everything about our teacher, the teacher's sexuality. We need to know about the teacher's political beliefs. I mean, why does a kid need to know any of that stuff? It should be about reading, writing, arithmetic. That's it. Civics, educational stuff, not what the teacher's personal political lean is, or if Trump is good or bad, or none of that shit needs to be in our schools, honestly. Yeah, the math too. Good point.
Yeah. I think we've reached a good closing point on the night here. So, Marcus, do you got anything you'd like to plug?
Actually, I do have something I would like to plug. I'm still trying to work on something I'm still trying to settle, and I need to give Chris a call, double check some things with him on what we're going to talk about in the Political Matrix Saturday night. But in the meantime, make sure to check for that. That will be going live 6:30, either 6 or 6:30 p.m. Pacific, 9 o'clock or 9:30 Eastern, and that will be 8 o'clock Central or 8:30. And I believe, what are you in Mountain Time?
Yep.
Mountain Time. So was that 7?
Yeah.
7 or 7:30? Okay. Yeah, I was like, that's right. Denver's not Central. I always think Central. And then I have a much anticipated interview coming up with Dr. Hughes. He is a he is a very, very, very knowledgeable gentleman and correspondent from Scoon TV. We're going to talk about Africa and their connections with Russia over time. We're going to talk about some of the stuff with China. We're going to go into all kind of different subjects, a deep dive on a lot of different things. So I think it's going to be super, super interesting. He's literally out of South Africa. So I think he's in Johannesburg or Cape Town. Not certain, but I just put that up on the What We've Been Thinking channel. So make sure to check that out over there. I think I have to double check with Chris, but I think Saturday we will probably be going into the Sharif family out of Pakistan. And then I know I definitely want to talk about what's going on in Sri Lanka right now. So I don't know if you guys are aware of it, but shit is getting crazy over there. You should definitely look into that.
That sounds like some very interesting stuff, and I'm sure you're bringing up some things that we haven't really gotten much.
Oh yeah.
Heard about in other outlets, but here, thanks so much to all the loyal people in the chat who came out tonight. For Marcus Cage, as for me, please like, share, subscribe.
Definitely.
And even on the other platforms like Twitch, Rumble, and Odyssey, where I'll upload this sometime after the stream. And coming up, next stream will be either Saturday or Sunday. I am not sure about that one yet. Then on Tuesday night, Uncle Warren will be on.
Oh, nice. I'm definitely make sure to check that one out.
Then I'll have to take up the help for the 2 suggestions you made with Allie and Sebs.
Allie and Sebs, yeah, definitely get them on. And
I don't think I follow either of them yet, so I'll have to.
Yeah, I can send you over. I could send you over their latest episode or latest video they put up. I'm in the middle of it right now, which Ali did as far as on Roe versus Wade. So you should definitely check it out. They have some. They go into a lot of subjects I felt like which parallel a lot with what we talk about in the political matrix. So if you like what we're doing, I'm pretty sure you'll like what they do over there. And then I will be making sure to shout out and plug this interview we had in your channel Saturday night. So yeah, I'll definitely make sure to give you a shout out. And I might even just go ahead and put this in the chat so people will be able to find you easy.
Oh yes, I would very much appreciate that. And with that being said, thanks so much to Marcus Cage of the Political Matrix for joining me on the Rochford Files tonight. This is Andrew Rochford saying goodbye and good night.